The wrongful conviction of Thomas Rosa Jr. 34 years. That's how long Thomas Rosa Jr. spent behind bars for a murder he always said he did not commit. 3 trials, 1 mistrial, 1 overturned conviction, and finally, a conviction that would not fully collapse until 35 years later, when DNA science finally caught up to the truth. This is the story of how outdated forensic evidence and a few seconds of nighttime eyewitness testimony took away more than 3 decades of one man's life. Just before midnight on December 6, 1985, 18-year-old Gwendolyn Taylor, a nurse's aide, was walked home by her boyfriend, Charles Ferguson, to her apartment on Talbot Avenue in the Dorchester neighborhood of Boston. After a brief argument, Ferguson left her about 150 feet from her building. At 12:15 a.m., Ferguson began calling Taylor's apartment to check on her. Her roommate, Sharita Offley, told him Taylor wasn't home. He called again. This time, Offley looked out the window and saw Taylor walking hand in hand with a man. She called again. Offley now saw Taylor sitting on the steps outside, with a man standing in front of her. That was the last anyone heard from Gwendolyn Taylor. She was found murdered shortly after. Police built their case around 2 key pieces of evidence: forensic blood type analysis and eyewitness testimony from people who saw the assailant for only a few seconds in the dark. Investigators claimed that bodily fluids found on the victim matched Thomas Rosa's blood type, and that fluid found on a jacket belonging to Rosa matched the victim's blood type. Rosa, notably, voluntarily presented himself to police. He has maintained his innocence from the very beginning. He was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, rape, and kidnapping. Police searched his apartment and seized a tan-brown jacket from a hallway closet, the same jacket that would become central to the prosecution's case. Rosa's first trial began in October 1986 at Suffolk County Superior Court. The case against him relied almost entirely on the blood type evidence and the testimony of 2 eyewitnesses who had glimpsed the perpetrator for less than 10 seconds, at night, from a distance. One critical detail stood out. A witness had described the attacker as having a distinctive feature: a missing tooth or a gap in his teeth. Thomas Rosa did not have that feature. Despite this glaring inconsistency, and forensic science that science would later prove unreliable, Rosa was tried not once, but 3 separate times. 1 trial ended in a mistrial. 1 conviction was overturned. But in 1993, after years of legal battles, Rosa was convicted again, and this time the conviction held. He was sentenced to life in prison. For the next several decades, Thomas Rosa remained in prison, consistently maintaining his innocence. The world outside changed dramatically. Forensic science evolved. DNA testing, which barely existed in any practical form in 1985, became a powerful tool capable of overturning convictions built on outdated blood type analysis. But for Rosa, real progress wouldn't come until his legal team, the New England Innocence Project and the Boston College Innocence Program, took up his case in 2017, more than 30 years after his arrest. New DNA testing, conducted between 2017 and 2019, told a very different story than the one prosecutors had presented at trial decades earlier. The bloodstain evidence that had once linked Rosa's jacket to the victim could no longer support that connection. Even the prosecution's own hired DNA expert reported that any DNA evidence that didn't exclude Rosa was, in his words, too common to support a first-degree murder conviction. Rosa's legal team also uncovered something the original trial never properly accounted for: the unreliable nature of eyewitness identifications made in the dark, in a matter of seconds, under highly stressful conditions. In 2022, Rosa's attorneys also discovered a court order from 1985, issued just 10 days after his arrest, requiring the state to preserve physical evidence in the case. The questions remained about whether that evidence had been properly handled and tested over the following decades. In October 2020, after 34 years in prison, a single justice of the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court ordered Thomas Rosa's release, while the courts reconsidered his case. He was 59 years old, but release was not the same as exoneration. The threat of a fourth trial still hung over him. On September 6, 2023, Judge Ricciuti formally overturned Rosa's convictions, ruling that the new DNA evidence and advances in the scientific understanding of eyewitness identification directly undermine the evidence used to convict him decades earlier. Even then, prosecutors initially considered pushing forward with yet another trial. For 2 more years, the case remained unresolved, neither closed nor moving forward. Then, in March 2026, the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office made its final decision. Citing the new DNA evidence and the erosion of the original case over time, prosecutors filed a formal notice ending the prosecution entirely. Thomas Rosa Jr. was officially exonerated, becoming the 100th person exonerated in the state of Massachusetts since 1989. He was 64 years old. Since his release, Thomas Rosa has reunited with his wife, Virginia, his son, and his grandchildren. He has become an active member of the Exonerated network, supporting others who have endured wrongful convictions and the trauma of long-term incarceration. But the decades cannot simply be returned. Rosa's health has suffered as a result of more than 3 decades of imprisonment and inadequate medical care. In his own words, alongside his wife, "This exoneration does not erase the past, but it restores truth, dignity, and hope for the future." Thomas Rosa Jr. lost 34 years of his life to a case built on blood-type science that science itself would later disprove, and an identification made in mere seconds, in the dark. His case stands as one of the clearest examples of how forensic methods once trusted without question can fail, and how long it can take for the truth to finally be heard. This has been the story of Thomas Rosa Jr.